The sky has become a weapon. What once stretched wide and open above us, soft with drifting clouds, is now a jagged expanse of fractured light. Each day it rains down glass, thin, sharp fragments torn from the upper atmosphere after the collapse of whatever shield once kept the balance. No one fully understands it. Some blame the fires that burned for decades, scorching the stratosphere until it peeled back like blistered skin. Others whisper about chemical burns in the sky from wars we never saw, wars waged high above until the heavens themselves broke. Whatever the cause, the result is the same. Every storm is a storm of glass. Wind howls, tearing shards loose, sending them spinning through the air like razors. You learn quickly to listen, to know the sound of the rain before it begins, the whistle of edges cutting through atmosphere. You learn to hide beneath scavenged tin, beneath rusted awnings, praying the brittle walls hold. The land beneath is no kinder. Where rivers once ran, there are only scars, winding trenches of cracked clay, their beds sun-bleached and hollow. Lakes are shallow pits lined with glassy sediment, their waters poisoned long ago by ash and runoff. What trees remain stand stripped, skeletons against the horizon, their branches brittle enough to shatter at the slightest touch. They don't bend in the wind anymore. They snapshot. I remember cities as they were, sprawling lights that could be. Seen from miles away, bridges stretched like steel veins across water, crowds moving shoulder to shoulder in the hum of traffic and neon. Now, those places are carcasses. The buildings slump inward, glassless frames staring down like empty skull sockets. Streets are littered with debris, not the kind you'd imagine from war movies, but the slow grind of abandonment. Cars burned, out and rusted, their insides gutted for parts. Concrete cracking into jagged teeth as roots push through, but even the weeds here seem sick, brittle. Drained of green dot, the sound of life is gone. No birds, no distant hum of power lines, no rush of water through gutters after rain. Just the whistle of the wind dragging glass across asphalt and the occasional rumble of walls caving in. Sometimes, if you listen long enough, you can almost hear the echoes of the old world, laughter spilling out of open bars, children calling across playgrounds, engines idling at red lights. But those aren't real anymore. They're ghosts, stitched into memory, fading with every day that passes. As for governments, they vanished long before the skies broke. First came the shortages, fuel, water, medicine. Then came the riots, the fires consuming city blocks. The broadcasts cutting one by one until there was nothing left but static. The institutions that swore to protect us crumbled when their foundations dried out. Soldiers turned into raiders, officers into scavengers. People found new banners to cling to. Small groups splintered factions, gangs carving up the bones of cities for scraps. Some call themselves protectors, but every protector demands a price. Safety, these days, is just another form of currency. There, our settlements scattered like stubborn weeds, little huddles of humanity clinging to what shelter they can build. Some use the shells of malls, fortified behind rusted gates. Others dig into the earth, carving tunnels like rats, safer beneath. Then above, there are still whispers of a community out west, built in the remains of a dam, where they've managed to filter water and build light again. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. Lies spread fast when people are desperate enough to believe. Then, everywhere else, survival is a gamble. The roads are worse than the ruins, long stretches of exposed land where the storms catch you out in the open. You can walk for days without seeing another living soul, but when you do, you learn to keep your distance. Hunger changes people. Thirst carves out their humanity. Some wear the faces of friends until night falls, then reveal what they've become. Out here, trust is as rare as clean water, and almost as valuable. Even time feels different now. Days bleed into one another, measured not by hours, but by how long you can keep moving before the skies open. Nights are darker, colder, broken only by the occasional flicker of firelight in the distance. Sometimes it's other survivors, sometimes it's flames feeding on the last bones of a building. You weigh the risk before getting close. A wrong choice can be the end. The world has become unrecognizable, a stranger wearing the skin of home. Places I once knew, highways I drove, parks I walked, corners I lingered on, waiting for the light to change, they're gone. Not destroyed, not erased, but twisted, scarred beyond recognition. They are reminders now, monuments to how fragile it all was, how quickly the familiar can dissolve into dust and shards. And yet, in all of it, there's still something that keeps us tethered. Maybe it's instinct. Maybe it's the stubborn refusal to die in silence. You see it in the survivors who rebuild radios out of scrap, who keep voices alive on the airwaves so that no one feels entirely alone. You see it in the way someone leaves behind half a can of food for the next traveler, or the way children still manage to laugh, even when they know tomorrow might not come. But make no mistake, the world is broken. The skies cut us down, the ground yields nothing, and the air itself feels thin, bitter. Each sunrise is not a promise, but a challenge. Prove you deserve another day. And each night is a reminder that even broken glass reflects light, scattered and fractured though it may be. Asterisk, my name doesn't matter anymore. Names used to mean something. Family names, given names, the nicknames friends shouted across crowded streets. Out here, though, names are just a way for people to remember you after you're gone. And most of the people I've known are already gone. Still, if you're listening, if this signal carries far enough, long enough, you can call me Ellis. That was the name my mother whispered once, when the world still had softness in it. I keep it alive, if only so I don't vanish completely, into the static. I wasn't always this voice on the wire. I had a life before the skies shattered, a life that feels borrowed from someone else now. I taught history at a community college. Can you believe that? Sitting in classrooms with buzzing lights, chalk dust on my hands, and rows of faces barely listening as I told them about the fall of empires, the rise and collapse of civilizations, the mistakes that were repeated across centuries. If I'd known what was coming, maybe I would have paid more attention to the way I told those stories. Maybe I would have noticed the warnings written in the margins of history, the echoes of collapse that were already rumbling toward us. But when it came, it wasn't like the history books. There wasn't a single moment, a gunshot or a declaration. The end bled into everything quietly at first. Shortages, strange weather, smoke-filled skies. And then it tore itself open. Cities cracking, people vanishing, the sky itself turning into a storm of blades. That's when I learned what survival actually means. Now, every day is work just to keep breathing. I've rigged up a shelter in what used to be a radio station, the kind of place that once blasted music and commercials into the night. The sign out front is long gone, but the bones of the building are solid enough, and the old transmission tower still has life if you feed it carefully. I keep a pedal generator in the corner. My legs ache from hours spent grinding it forward, but it keeps the lights flickering and the signal alive. Out here, electricity is worth more than gold. Without it, you're just another shadow swallowed by the dark. I scavenge when I can. Most days that means slipping into husks of stores or abandoned houses, picking through debris for anything useful, a can with food still clinging to the bottom, a tarp that isn't too torn to keep out the rain of glass, batteries that haven't leaked themselves dry. I've learned to carry only what I can protect, because anything visible becomes a target. Out on the roads, there are eyes always watching. Desperation makes people bold. Water is the hardest. There's no river anymore. No clean source. I've built filters from sand and cloth, boil what I can over a rusted stove I dragged back to the station. The taste is always bitter, but it hasn't killed me yet. Hunger bites less when you learn to chew slowly, to let each mouthful linger, like it's worth more than it is. But survival isn't just about food and water. It's about not letting yourself go hollow. I think that's why I keep broadcasting, talking into the static. Even if no one answers, it reminds me I'm not completely gone. The signal travels, and maybe, just maybe, someone hears. Maybe there's another voice on the edge of this ruined world, clinging to their own last scraps of hope, who finds comfort in knowing they're not alone. I've lost more than I'll ever put into words. My family, my wife, my little boy. They didn't make it past the second year of the glass storms. I buried them where the earth still yielded enough to dig, marked the spot with a stone and a ribbon from my son's old jacket. I don't go back there. I can't. Some wounds never close, and pressing them just makes you bleed again. But their absence drives me. Every time I switch on this microphone, I think of my boy's voice, how he once loved to sing nonsense songs. In the back seat of the car, if someone else out there hears me, if someone else survives because of a warning or a story or a reminder that hope still matters, then maybe their voices won't be lost the way his was. I've met others along the way, some kind, most desperate. A woman named Ray who carried her mother's wedding ring on a string around her neck, saying it gave her strength. A man named Jonah who swore he could fix any machine, though the last I saw of him, he was lying beside one he couldn't. For a while, I traveled with them, but the world has a way of tearing people apart. Now it's just me and the static, and the glass that rains from above. There are nights when I sit in silence, staring at the hum of the transmitter light, wondering if this is worth it, if holding on is worth it. The loneliness weighs heavier, then hunger heavier than thirst. Sometimes I dream of the old world, the sound of music drifting from an open cafe, the smell of rain on hot pavement, the warmth of a hand in mine. Waking up from those dreams is its own kind of cruelty, but still I keep going. What drives me? Maybe it's stubbornness, maybe it's duty, maybe it's the memory of my students, the way I told them that history was a story worth carrying. Forward, even when everything else turned to ash. If I can keep even a flicker alive, then maybe this isn't the true end. Maybe this is just another collapse in a long line of collapses, and something new can rise from it. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a leader. I'm just a man clinging to what remains, refusing to vanish without leaving behind a trace. And maybe that's enough. Out here, survival isn't measured in victories. It's measured in sunrises, in how many times you can drag yourself back from the edge and whisper, not yet, not today. So, if you hear this, if my words carry, To wherever you are, know that you're not alone. The world is shattered, yes, but shards can still catch the light. And as long as we're breathing, as long as one voice still speaks into the silence, then hope is not gone. Not yet. Asterisk, the crisis isn't coming. It's already here. It has been here for years, though each day it twists itself into something new, something hungrier. Survival used to be a matter of willpower, rationing food, finding shelter, keeping your body moving even when your spirit begged you to stop. Now it feels like survival itself has turned against us, like the very air, sky, and ground are conspiring to strip the last threads of humanity away. The storms are worsening. I can hear them before they arrive, the faint, glassy hum carried on the wind, like wind chimes twisted into something sinister. At first, they came only with the strongest winds, sweeping down once every few weeks. Now, they come nearly every day, sometimes more than once. Shards of sky, razor-thin and translucent, fall in waves, cutting through canvas, metal, flesh. If the winds are strong enough, the shards don't just fall, they travel sideways, shredding anything that dares to stand in the open. I've patched my shelter more times than I can count. Tarps layered over tin, holes stuffed with rags, duct, tape crisscrossing every seam. But no matter what I do, the storms find a way in. Each time, I sweep up piles of broken glass, my hands wrapped in layers of cloth to keep the edges from slicing me open. The floor crunches underfoot like salt. The shards are so fine they get into everything: food, water, skin. I keep finding tiny cuts on my arms, my neck, even my eyelids. You learn not to scratch them, not to rub, or you'll drive the glass deeper. Food is harder to come by. Stores have been picked clean, and what remains is spoiled, rusted, or crawling. With rot, the last time I risked a scavenging trip, I walked 12 miles and found only a half-empty tin of beans, swollen with age. I still ate it. I had to, but I paid for it in sickness that left me shaking and weak for days. Once, people would have thrown something like that away without a second thought. Now, it's treasure, poison or not. Water god, water. That's the real enemy. It used to fall from the sky, filling rivers and lakes, cleansing the air. Now, it barely exists. When the storms pass, they sometimes leave behind a residue of condensation, small enough to collect on tarps if you're careful. But it isn't. Clean. Nothing is clean anymore. I filter what I can, boil what I can, but the taste lingers sharp and metallic, as if the glass has seeped into it. Maybe it has fuel, is gone. The last cars sputtered out years ago when the pumps ran dry. People stripped vehicles for parts, used wood for fires until the forests were nothing but jagged stumps. I keep warm by burning scavenged furniture, the splinters of a world that once was. My radio runs only because of the generator and the sheer punishment I put my legs through to keep it alive. Every broadcast costs me hours of sweat, hours I should be using to search for food or water. But silence is worse than hunger. Silence is death. I don't just face the storms. I face what the storms have made of people. Hunger twists the mind. Thirst sharpens the teeth. Out there you'll find survivors who look human enough, but the moment they see what you carry, they'll cut you down as quick as the glass falling from above. I've seen it. I've heard it. Once, I stumbled across the remains of a camp on the outskirts of town. The tents were shredded, blood dark against the pale dirt, empty cans scattered like bones. There were no bodies, but the drag marks told. Me enough not all are like that. Some cling to decency, though it costs them. Months ago, a boy came stumbling near the station, no older than 16, his leg torn open by a storm. I dragged him inside, cleaned the wound as best I could, shared what food I had left. He stayed a few nights, quiet, staring at the floor as if words were too heavy to carry. One morning he was gone, and so was half my water supply. I can't blame him. Out here, desperation is stronger than gratitude. I sometimes think about the science of it all, the mechanics of this apocalypse. Maybe it's the old teacher in me, clinging to explanations, to data, even when they don't matter anymore. The glass storms, I think, come from the atmosphere itself. Temperatures rose so high, fires burned so long, that silica in the upper layers fused into sheets, brittle from heat and pressure. When the winds shift, they crack apart, falling in fragments. It's only a theory, of course, but it makes sense. The planet is cutting itself open, piece by piece, like shattered mirrors falling from the heavens. But explanations don't change the reality. The storms are killing us. The drought is killing us. Hunger is killing us. And each day it gets harder. Each day there's less left to scavenge, fewer safe places to hide, fewer people you can trust. Survival isn't just a battle against the world anymore. It's a battle against time. I mark each day with scratches on the wall of the station, though sometimes I wonder why. What am I counting toward? What am I waiting for? The marks blur together until I can't tell if it's been 3 years, 5, or 10 since the world ended. All I know is that it gets worse. The storms come faster. The shards cut deeper. The hunger lingers longer. Some nights I hear them outside. Not the storms, not the wind, but the voices of others. Survivors moving in groups, their laughter too sharp, their footsteps too many. Raiders, most likely. They strip places bare, take what they can, burn the rest. I keep the lights low, the broadcasts quiet, praying they don't notice the tower. If they do, I'll have to run, and there's nowhere left to run to. I tell myself I can keep going, that I've made it this far, and I can make it further. But there are moments when the storms rage and the glass rattles against the walls like bullets. When I sit with my hands pressed to my ears and wonder how much longer. Every day it feels like the world is asking the same question. How badly? Do you want to live? And still I whisper back, badly enough, so here's my advice. For whoever is listening, for whoever is still alive out there, don't trust the skies. When you hear the hum, when the air goes sharp and strange, get low, get under cover. Don't run. The glass cuts faster than your legs can carry you. Stay small, stay hidden. If you must move, wrap yourself in whatever cloth you can find. Keep your face down, and don't breathe too deep. The shards carry dust, fine enough to cut your lungs. Asterisk, find water anywhere you can. Tarps, condensation, anything, even if it tastes like rust and ash. Drink it slowly. Let it trickle, don't gulp. Boil it if you can. Filter it if you can, but don't waste it. Every drop is a day, and trust carefully. Desperation makes liars of us all. That's the truth of it. The world is ending, not with a bang, not with fire, but with the slow grinding hunger of storms and silence. Each day we shrink smaller. Each day we bleed a little more into the dirt. And yet, here I am, still breathing, still speaking, still scratching another mark on the wall. Asterisk, maybe that's the real crisis. Not that the world is broken, but that I can't let it go, that none of us can. even as the skies rain glass, even as hunger gnaws, even as the silence grows heavier. We cling to this stubborn ember inside us, refusing to be extinguished. So I'll keep talking. I'll keep peddling. I'll keep warning. Because as long as there's one voice, there's still a world left worth saving. Asterisk, you're still tuned in, aren't you? Static comes and goes, but the sound of a human voice is rarer than food these days, so maybe that's why you're still listening. I'll talk, and you'll listen, because silence has a way of eating you alive in this new world. The crisis hasn't slowed. It's growing, tightening its grip. You'd think the glass storms were enough, that the sky cutting us apart would be the peak of disaster. But no, every week is harder than the last. The air is sharper, the water more bitter, and the people more desperate. I'll tell you about the water first. We used to pull it from an old cistern, rainwater collected before the sky went to hell. But that reservoir is bone dry now. Every morning I walk past it, the cement cracked and yawning like the ribs of a dead beast. When I tilt the barrel and run my fingers along the inside, there's nothing but dust that clings to your skin like it knows you're thirsty. The rivers are poison. After one of the bigger storms last winter, the glass tore through a refinery up north, chemicals bled into the watershed, and now the creeks are rainbow's lick, bubbling like they're alive. People still drink from them when they're desperate enough. I've seen what happens afterward. The shakes, the coughing up of foam, the way the body curls in on itself until it just quits. Food is no better. The scavenging grounds have been picked clean, grocery stores stripped, warehouses hollow, and the last cans traded away at knife point. I ration dried beans, a handful at a time, boiled down in the little water I dare waste. You eat slow now. Not to savor it, there's no savoring anything but to trick your stomach into believing. You've been fed .fuel. Don't make me laugh. Diesel's more valuable than gold. A jerrycan can buy you protection, or it can buy you a bullet in the skull when someone decides not to pay. My generator coughs more than it runs. I power it with scraps, with whatever. Oil I can squeeze from abandoned cars. The hum that fills this room when it works, it's not just electricity, it's proof that I exist. That's why I keep it alive, even when logic says I should let it die. But resources aren't the only thing running out. Trust is thinner than air. I told you about raiders before. They're not the leather-clad fantasies of old films. They're just men and women who've stopped pretending civilization has rules. They roam the highways in packs, knives strapped to their thighs, their eyes bloodshot from smoke and hunger. They strip camps down to the bone. If you're lucky, they take what you have and leave you breathing. If you're not, well, then the glass storms aren't the only thing you need to fear slicing into your flesh. 2 nights ago, they came close. I heard them boots crunching on glass, voices low and laughing like the world hadn't ended, like they were just drunk on the ruins. I sat here, hand on my rifle, lungs frozen. They didn't find me, not that night, but they will, sooner or later. Everyone gets found. Still, amidst the hunger, the poison, the knives, there are whispers. Whispers of a place north of here, past the wastelands, where water flows clean and fire doesn't fall from the sky. They call it the reservoir. Some say it's an old hydroelectric dam, still intact, still guarded by a community that figured out how to make the old machines breathe again. Others swear it's just a mirage, a lie spread by raiders to draw in the desperate, but I can't stop thinking about it. Sometimes I imagine it, a lake glinting under a sun not yet obscured, towers of concrete still holding strong, and the sound of rushing water, real water, not poisoned, not rationed, but endless, eternal. Is it hope or just madness? I don't know. But when I close my eyes at night, when the generator fades and I lie there listening to the creaks of the world falling apart, I cling to that picture like a lifeline. There's a part of me that wonders if I should go, pack what little I have, cross the dead highways, risk the storms and the blades, and see if there's anything waiting for me out there. Another part says it's suicide, that chasing myths in a world this broken is just another way to die. But staying is its own kind of death. Let me tell you something I haven't told anyone. Before the sky shattered, I had a son. His name was Eli. He was 10 when the glass first fell. Too young to understand, too old to be spared. He asked me if it would ever stop, if the sky would heal itself, if we'd see blue again. I told him yes. I lied. He lasted 3 storms. The 4th one took him. I can still hear his voice when the static gets thick enough, like the radios carrying his ghost across the air. Maybe that's why I can't stop thinking about the reservoir. Maybe I need to believe there's some place left where kids can laugh without bleeding from their throats. Maybe I owe it to him to try. But if I go, who do I trust? Every survivor I meet could be the one who guts me for my boots. Every campfire could be a trap. Yet sometimes I stumble across faces that still carry kindness, worn though it may be. There was a woman last month, dark hair tied back, cradling a baby wrapped in rags. She offered me half a crust of bread, said her name was Sarah, said there were others heading north. Do I follow her, or do I cling to this bunker, to my radio, to the fragile walls I've built against the collapse? That's the tension of it. Every day is a question with no right answer. Stay and rot, or go and risk being carved up by storm or stranger. You, listening out there, you probably have the same choice. Maybe your rumors are different. Maybe your hope looks like a working train or a vault, or some island where the glass can't fall. But the weight is the same. Believe and risk dying chasing smoke, or don't and die slow anyway. This is the part of the story where tension coils around the chest, squeezing where the silence between breaths is louder than any storm. The storms are growing, the raiders are circling, the water's gone and the reservoir keeps calling, and me, I'm still here, still talking, still trying to decide whether this radio is my prison or my anchor. But something has to give, soon, *you. Be still with me. Good. I need you tonight more than any other, because the sky is breaking again. I can hear it even now, above the hum of this failing generator, a sound like the grinding of teeth the size of mountains, like the heavens themselves are splintering. The glass storms always start this way, with that dreadful resonance, a groan that seeps into your marrow before the shards even fall. The air has gone still too still. No rats scratching, no wind whistling through the broken windows, no creak of settling beams, just silence, heavy, absolute. The kind of silence you only get when the world is holding its breath before it tries to kill you and me. I'm packing. For the first time in years, I'm packing. I've decided I'm going north. I don't know if the reservoir is real, or if it's just another lie, another mirage in the desert of this life. But if I stay here tonight, I won't. See the morning? The storm rolling in isn't like the others. This one has weight. This one smells like an ending. I shove beans into a sack. A half-empty canteen. 2 bullets for the rifle. 1 flare. That's all I have left worth carrying. Not much, is it? But it'll have to be enough. Funny thing is, I always thought this bunker was my lifeline. These concrete walls kept me breathing through more storms than I can count. But now they feel like a tomb, and I won't let the storm bury me alive in them. Not like this. As I climb the rusted ladder, I hear his voice again, Eli's voice, my boy, asking me if the sky will ever turn blue again, asking me if we'll ever see it heal. And I realize that if I don't go, if I don't try, then the answer is carved in stone. No, there will never be blue, never be hope, never be anything but rot. The hatch groans open, and the first breath of night air cuts into my lungs like a blade. It's colder than usual, sharper, and above Mether, heavens writhe. Clouds churn with a strange light, pale and glassy, like molten sand being poured across the stars. The storm is coming fast. I shoulder the pack, rifle slung, and set out. Every step crunches on the litter of old shards, a cemetery of broken sky beneath my boots. My breath fogs in front of me, thick and ragged, but I keep moving. North, toward the highway. Toward whatever waits. Half a mile in, I hear them. Voices, not raiders, this time too quiet, too hurried. Survivors. I duck behind a husk of a billboard and peer out. It's her, the woman from weeks ago. Sarah, the one with the baby. She's not alone, for others shuffle beside her, gaunt but determined. They've got a cart, wheels squealing under the weight of scavenged supplies. And their eyes, God, their eyes look north. They're heading to the reservoir. For a heartbeat, I consider walking away. Safer alone, always safer alone. But then, the wind shifts, and I hear the glass begin to fall thin, tinkling notes at first, like distant wind chimes. My time is gone. My choice is made for me. I step out, rifle low, hands raised. They freeze. Sarah's grip tightens on the baby. A man beside her pulls a knife, jagged and rusted. I'm not here to take, I rasp. My voice sounds like gravel. I'm here to go, same way you're going. For a long moment, only the storm answers shards ticking down like the first. Drops of rain. Then Sarah nods. Barely, but it's enough. We move together. The storm builds behind us. A wall of glittering death sweeping across the horizon. I can see it now, a curtain of knives, glowing faintly with the reflection of fire somewhere far away. The ground shudders when it hits, glass ripping through soil and stone like paper. We run. Asterisk. The highway is a graveyard. Rusted cars line the lanes, their windows long since shattered, their bones stripped by scavengers. Each step over the wreckage echoes like thunder. The baby cries once, sharp and terrified, but Sarah hushes him with a Songan old lullaby that cuts through the howling wind like a ghost from a world that no longer exists. Behind us, the storm screams. Shards slice through metal, tearing vehicles in half. I glance back once and see a semi-truck split open like a tin can. Its cargo spilling fire and smoke into the night. We won't outrun it, not on foot. That's when I see it, a bridge ahead. Steel, skeletal, but still standing. Beneath it, shadows a tunnel entrance, half collapsed but open. Shelter, a chance, down there. I shout over the storm. We scramble, shards rain harder now, cutting into my arms, my face. Blood runs hot down my cheek, but I don't stop. We squeeze into the tunnel, darkness swallowing us whole just as the storm slams into the bridge above. With a shriek of metal. For a moment, It feels like the world itself will collapse. The ceiling trembles, dust choking the air, shards piercing through cracks in the concrete. Sarah clutches her baby close, eyes wide with terror, and in that moment, in the heart of the storm, I realize this is the turning point, not just for me, for all of us. If the reservoir is real, then this is the path to it. If it's a lie, then this is where we'll die together. Either way, the choice is made. I close my eyes. For the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm speaking into silence. I feel like my words might matter, like they might carry forward, like they might outlast even me. Eli, I whisper, though no one hears. I'm still trying. I'm still moving. The storm howls, glass tearing the world apart above us. But in this hollow, fragile shelter, a handful of survivors cling together against the end, and north always north something waits. Whether salvation or death, I'll find out soon. Asterisk, the storm has passed. At least I think it has. Out there, above the cracked concrete ceiling of this tunnel, I can still hear fragments falling soft, scattered tinkles like the last grains of sand spilling through an hourglass. But the roar, the scream of the glass sky tearing the world apart, that's gone. We're alive. That fact alone feels unreal. I sit slumped against the wall, my pack torn open at my side, its contents scattered across the floor. One can of beans, rolled into the dark, gone for good. My canteen cracked, leaking a slow trickle that glistens on the dusty floor like spilled blood. 2 bullets still in my pocket, though one is dented now. Useless. I run my fingers over the wound on my cheek. Jagged, shallow enough that I'll live, deep enough that the scar will follow me to the grave. I can't tell anymore if that feels like survival or punishment. Sarah is across from me, baby wrapped in the remnants of a blanket. She rocks him gently, her face streaked with dirt and blood, her hair matted with sweat, but he's breathing. His tiny chest rises and falls, fragile as paper. That sight alone keeps me from despair. The others aren't faring as well. The man with the rusted knife dead, a shard caught him through the chest when we were scrambling down here. He didn't even cry out, just dropped, the life draining out of his eyes before the blood hit the ground. His body lies a few feet from us, stiffening, silent. Another, a young woman with a limp, has gone quiet. She stares into the dark, eyes hollow. I don't know her name. She hasn't spoken since we ducked inside. I wonder if she ever will again so. Here we are, a handful of us, alive, but not untouched. Never untouched. When I close my eyes, I see it again. The storm devouring the bridge. Steel shrieking like some dying animal. Trucks shredded like paper. The entire sky turned into a glittering. And beneath it all, a sant scurrying in the dirt, hoping the boot wouldn't come down. I thought survival would feel like victory. Instead, it feels like a sentence. We sit in silence for a long time. No one speaks, because what is there to say? We don't even know if the world outside this tunnel still exists, if the ground hasn't been flayed bare or the air turned toxic by the storm. But eventually, silence becomes unbearable, so I talk. I don't even realize I'm doing it at first. Words just tumble out of me, ragged and raw, like I've been holding them in for too long. I should have stayed in the bunker, I mutter. If I had, maybe I'd still have food. Maybe I wouldn't be bleeding. Maybe I wouldn't have dragged you all into this. Sarah looks up. Her eyes are hollow, but behind them I see something like steel. No, she says simply. Just that. No explanation, no comfort. Just know, it's strange how much weight that word carries. It shuts me up faster than a scream could have. I lean, my head back against the wall, close my eyes, and breathe. What am I now? A survivor, sure. But more than that, less than that. Once, I thought surviving meant hiding, clinging to scraps, outlasting the storms. But now, sitting here with these people, strangers, yet not strangers anymore, I wonder if survival is something else entirely. Maybe survival means carrying the weight of others, even when you can barely carry your own. The baby coughs once, and I feel something crack inside me. A memory, jagged as glass. Eli coughing in the night, his fever burning him up, while I held his tiny hand and promised him it would break, that he'd be better by morning. Morning never came. I swallow hard. The wound in my cheek stings as if to remind me, the past is a ghost. It doesn't heal, it just haunts. Still, I look at Sarah and her boy and think maybe I don't need to heal. Maybe I just need to keep walking north, long enough for him to grow up and see a day that doesn't end in fire. The others sleep fitfully, but I stay awake, always awake. The storm might be gone, but the danger never is. Hours pass. When the silence outside finally feels heavier than the storm did, I climb up the slope to the tunnel mouth. The world beyond looks changed. Not healed, never healed, but different. The highway is buried in glittering dunes of glass shards, piled waist-high in places, catching the faint glow of dawn in a cruel sparkle. Every car is skewered, shredded, crushed under the weight. The bridge we ran under is nothing but twisted steel, a skeleton picked clean, but the air smells different. Not like burning, not like dust, cold, sharp, almost clean. For a second, I just stand there, breathing it in. Then I realize something. The storm cleared the sky. Not completely, there's still haze, still sickly yellow clouds clinging to the horizon, but above me, in patches, I see something I haven't seen in years. Dark, empty, infinite dot stars, they glitter faintly, fragile pinpricks of light. Nothing like the blinding clarity I remember from camping trips with Eli when he was small, but enough to remind me that there's still something above the glass, still something untouched. I laugh, and it sounds cracked, broken, but it's real. When I climb back down into the tunnel, my voice is steadier than it's been in years. The storm's over, I tell them. We can move. North is still there. The limp girl just stares at me, but Sarah nods, and the baby stirs in her arms. That's enough. Asterisk, we gather what's left of our supplies. Barely enough to last. 2 days, maybe 3 if we stretch it. No fuel. No water but what little I can scavenge from the trickle in my ruined canteen. But we'll walk. We'll put one foot in front of the other, because the reservoir might be real, and even if it isn't north, means movement. North means trying dot. As I sling my pack over my shoulder, I catch my reflection in a shard of glass half buried in the tunnel dirt. My face is haggard, scarred, eyes sunken and bloodshot, but there's something else there too, something I thought I lost, a spark. Not hope, not yet, but the shadow of it. The beginning we step out into the ruined dawn together, crunching through, fields of shattered sky, leaving the tunnel behind us. The air is colder, sharper, alive with the echoes of everything the storm destroyed. And I realized something. The world didn't reset. It didn't heal. But it also didn't end. And as long as it doesn't end, Neither do we. Asterisk, the night stretches longer now. I used to think sunrise was a certainty, something the earth owed us just for staying alive through the dark. But here, in this world, nothing is owed. Not light, not water, not even breath. Every moment we draw in air is carved out of stubbornness and sheer refusal to surrender. The storm changed everything. It broke more than it mended, scattered what little we had built, tested what little we still believed. Some didn't make it through. Good people, stubborn people, people I thought were stronger than me. And yet, I'm still here. That fact alone doesn't feel like a triumph. Survival in a place like this is never noble. It's dirty, hungry, desperate. But it's also necessary. We've gathered what we could in the aftermath. A few scraps of fuel. Some containers that can still carry water if we find it. Seeds tucked away in a rusted tin box. Reminders of what soil once gave freely. Each of these things feels small, almost laughable in the face of the world collapsing around us. But together they're proof. Proof that even in a dying world, there's something left to fight for. Hope, I've realized, isn't a roaring fire. It's not a rallying cry. Hope is a flicker, a stubborn ember that refuses to go out, no matter how much the wind howls. It's fragile, yes. So fragile it feels ridiculous to hold on to it. But it's also the one thing we can't afford to lose. I believe we'll rebuild the world. No, not the way it was. That world is gone, stripped away by drought and greed, by storms we never prepared for, by choices we all made together. But maybe we can build something different. Smaller, harder, more honest. Sometimes, in the silence after the wind dies down, I imagine future voices. Children who will never know what oceans sounded like, or how sweet a summer apple tasted, or what it meant to turn a faucet and trust water to flow. They'll never have those luxuries, but maybe they'll have something else. A chance to learn how to live with the land, not above it. A chance to build a life not measured in endless growth, but in survival, community, endurance. I know I won't see that world if it comes, but I can help leave behind the faintest path toward it. Maybe that's enough. So here's my final broadcast for anyone who's still listening. I don't have answers. I don't have salvation in a bottle or a miracle in a generator. I just have this voice carried out across the static, stitched together with breath and stubbornness. Stay alive. Even if it feels like nothing matters, even if the sky itself looks like it's collapsing, stay alive. Because life, no matter how fragile, no matter how bitter, is resistance. Each day you wake up and keep moving, you spit in the face of the storm. Maybe you'll find others, maybe you won't, but don't let that ember die in you. Protect it, even when everything else is falling apart. Especially then. I'll keep walking tomorrow. I don't know if I'll make it north or east or anywhere at all, but I'll move, because stopping, lying down, letting the dust bury me, the only true death left in this world. So if you hear me, remember this: the world is gone, but we are not. As long as breath still fills your lungs, as long as your heart still beats against your ribs, there's a chance. Not for paradise, not for the life we lost, but for endurance, for scraps of kindness, for sparks of hope in the ashes. That's all that's left to us, and maybe it's enough. Static crackles, a pause, then the last words, quieter but resolute. Stay human, stay alive. And when the sun does rise again, let it find you still breathing.